The train station was eerily quiet. A dense fog wrapped around the iron tracks like ghostly fingers, obscuring everything beyond a few feet. The air smelled of damp metal and something faintly rotten, though I couldn't place the source. I checked my ticket again, confirming the departure time. 2:13 a.m. An odd time for a train ride, but I had no choice. I was heading to Blackwood, a small town nestled deep within the mountains. The job offer had come suddenly, and something about the entire arrangement felt off. The employer, a private research company, had insisted I take this particular train and had even provided the ticket. When I asked about other travel options, the reply was firm: no. Take this train. And whatever you do, follow the rule. The rule. It was printed in bold red letters on the back of my ticket: do not break the silence. I assumed it meant no loud conversations or disturbances, but something about the phrasing unsettled me. A low whistle echoed through the night, and moments later, the train emerged from the fog like a specter materializing from the void. Its sleek, black exterior reflected the dim glow of the station lights. As it pulled to a stop, the doors slid open with a soft hiss. There was no conductor in sight, no other passengers boarding. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to turn back, but I forced myself to step forward. As soon as I crossed the threshold, a chilling sensation washed over me, like stepping into a place that time had forgotten. The interior was surprisingly elegant, lined with rich mahogany panels and deep crimson seats. Dim lanterns flickered along the ceiling, casting shifting shadows that played tricks on my eyes. A strange, muffled silence filled the air, as if the train itself was absorbing all sound. I moved cautiously down the aisle, my footsteps unnervingly quiet against the thick carpet. There were passengers, but something was wrong about them. They sat stiffly in their seats, hands folded in their laps, their faces expressionless. No one spoke. No one moved. Their gazes were locked forward, unblinking. I swallowed hard, finding an empty seat near the back. I placed my bag beside me and tried to steady my breathing. The train lurched forward, and the landscape outside blurred into a stretch of endless darkness. Minutes passed. Then an hour. No announcements, no chatter, not even the sound of the train's wheels clacking against the tracks. Just the oppressive, suffocating silence. Then, I noticed something chilling. One of the passengers, an old woman with deep wrinkles carved into her face, was trembling. Her hands, folded neatly in her lap, were shaking violently. Her lips were pressed together so tightly they turned white, as though she was forcing herself not to speak. Her wide, terrified eyes darted from side to side, glancing toward the shadows pooling in the corners of the train. I followed her gaze, but there was nothing there. I wanted to ask if she was okay, but I remembered the rule. Do not break the silence. A soft sob escaped the woman's lips. Instantly, every head in the train snapped toward her. The movement was simultaneous, unnatural. My heart pounded as I watched the passengers, their once lifeless expressions now alert and predatory. Their eyes, dark and hollow, locked onto the woman. A dreadful pressure filled the air, like the atmosphere itself had thickened. The woman clamped a hand over her mouth, her whole body quaking as silent tears streamed down her cheeks. Something shifted in the darkness near the end of the car. A shadow that shouldn't be there. A shape too large, too formless to be human. It slithered forward with a sickening, wet sound, stretching toward the woman with elongated fingers that seemed to melt in and out of existence. The woman let out a choked gasp. The thing lurched. I turned away, gripping my seat, my nails digging into the fabric. I didn't want to see. I didn't want to know. A horrible, muffled sound, like something being dragged across the floor, filled the space. The train didn't stop. No one screamed. No one moved. When I finally dared to look, the woman was gone. Her seat was empty, but a faint dark stain spread across the cushion, as though something had been there, pressing down on it. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced, every nerve in my body screaming at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. The train was still moving, the windows revealing nothing but an endless void outside. I squeezed my eyes shut. This isn't happening. This isn't real. Then, a cold breath ghosted over my ear. A voice, deep, distorted, hungry, whispered, "Your turn is coming." I sat frozen in my seat, my body unwilling to move, my mind screaming for me to wake up from this nightmare. The silence that followed that chilling whisper was somehow heavier than before. I forced myself to look around, but nothing had changed. The other passengers still sat eerily still, their vacant expressions never wavering. But I could feel it now, an awareness, an unseen presence that pressed against me, lurking just beyond my line of sight. My hands trembled as I clutched the armrests. Don't break the silence. Don't react. The train continued its relentless journey through the void outside, the windows offering nothing but an abyss of darkness. I risked another glance at the empty seat where the old woman had been. My stomach twisted. The dark stain had grown, seeping into the fabric like ink spreading across paper. But worse than that was the faint imprint, an outline, as if something large had been pressing into the seat from the other side. And then the stain moved. A trick of the light. No. It was shifting, pulsating as though alive. My throat tightened as I watched it crawl along the cushion, inching toward the aisle. Toward me. I clamped my mouth shut, my pulse hammering in my ears. Then, from somewhere deep within the train, a sound broke the silence. A low, raspy exhale. Not mine. Not a passenger's. It was something else. The air turned frigid, and the lanterns overhead flickered violently. The other passengers remained unmoving, but I swore I saw their pupils dilate, their fingers twitching as if preparing for something. The exhale came again, closer this time. Slow and deliberate. Like something savoring the moment before it struck. I felt something shift behind me. My breath hitched. Every instinct screamed at me not to turn around. And then, a hand, cold and clammy, settled on my shoulder. A shiver rippled through my spine. The touch was ice-cold, lingering, pressing just hard enough to feel disturbingly real. My breath caught in my throat. I knew, that turning around would be the worst mistake I could make. The pressure on my shoulder increased. My skin prickled under the unseen grip. I could feel something shifting behind me, something leaning in. And then, ever so softly, a voice slithered through the silence. "Why are you here?" The words weren't spoken aloud. They resonated inside my skull, an invasive whisper that coiled through my thoughts like a living thing. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. I fought the overwhelming urge to cry out, to bolt from my seat. But I couldn't. Because breaking the silence meant death. The entity lingered behind me for an agonizing moment longer, as if savoring my fear. Then, with a slow, deliberate exhale, the pressure on my shoulder disappeared. I bit my lip to keep from gasping. But I knew it hadn't left. It was still there. Watching. Waiting. The train rumbled forward, deeper into the void. And I realized something horrifying. This ride had no end. The silence had weight. It pressed against my chest like an invisible force, making each breath a conscious effort. My fingers curled into the fabric of my seat as I dared a glance at the other passengers. Their expressions remained vacant, but something about their postures had changed. They were leaning in. Not moving, not shifting, but subtly, undeniably leaning toward me. Their unblinking eyes drilled into my skin, hollow and endless. My heart pounded in my ears as I clenched my jaw, fighting the instinct to scream. A new sound broke through the silence. A distant wail. Not loud, not even close, but it was there, a whisper of agony carried through the walls of the train. My stomach twisted as I realized it was getting louder. Closer. And then, from the far end of the train car, a door creaked open. A figure stood in the threshold. Tall, gaunt, shrouded in shadow. Its elongated fingers traced along the frame as it stepped inside, its face obscured by the flickering lanterns. It was looking for me. Part 5, coming soon.